shepherding leg. So, I could be talking about a church I knew 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or last year. So I'm not going to try and be clear about who I'm speaking of. Merely these are anecdotes that give examples of one-legged churches. One-legged meaning focused intensely on one apest calling as their identity, as the kind of equipping they receive, as the focus of the church and the ministry. So, when you make shepherding the center point, you make people's comfort levels central. You make tradition central. By the way, those are things that are good, and yet when any one of these things allowed to become central becomes, the difference between a pet lizard and a brontosaurus. As far as a valid, reasonable thing to have in your home versus something that could crush your house. One of the things that happens, you take somebody whose calling was to care for and to counsel people, and you place them in a position of central administrative authority of a church, is their focus goes, how do I create that sense of community if I'm not one-on-one with people like I used to be? One of the things tends to be, how can I monitor people through attendance? And so you find a way to lovingly say, I am measuring your spiritual growth based on how often I see you. And I'm measuring your spiritual growth by whether or not you're willing to monitor other people's attendance. Okay? So these things become enlarged things that will take the place of innovation. If it's a sacred cow you cannot violate, that you don't make people uncomfortable, well, then you certainly can't say, we want to start a ministry to people that are culturally different than this group. You can't say, I want to teach biblical things that contradict what our traditions say. Those things become real red flags and alarms. And so, you end up with a lack of depth. You end up with monitoring attendance as a metric of growth and a lack of intensity and depth underneath those things. Because they filter into this larger thing, you can have evangelism, provided it's about getting those people to those big number groups. There's a great focus on getting people to the meetings and that they be big, and a de-emphasis on small, intimate things. Those groups tend to have weaknesses in terms of teaching, that is, people that can really articulate the Word of God carefully and intellectually. Because you don't want to make people uncomfortable. Just, when you place a person that has shepherding gifts in the position to do everything, which is what churches often mean when they say, want to hire a senior pastor, we want somebody who's got these gifts, but, can fill in with skills and training in these other gifts. And so when a shepherd teaches, if they don't have a teaching gift, it's out of books. It's from curriculum. It's dead. And then, of course, the apostolic ministry is virtually impossible if your main cultural idea is we don't rock any boats. We are interested in maintaining this culture, and we don't know what's wrong with people outside of this culture. If I blessed you or encouraged you, please like and subscribe.